This module I call market research. It's a very, very big topic. So one of the things that I'm going to do is break it down a little bit. So there's so many considerations that you have to do some research on. So you've got a great idea. Now what? One of the things to consider is, are you going to be independent? Are you going to have your own little business and you're going to do all the stuff yourself from scratch? Or do you buy a franchise? Now I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of both in a little later video, but what I want to just get you going on is what type of research you need. The best way to start is the name of your company. You're going to have to do some research on that because you want to make sure that the name is not taken. Most jurisdictions allow you to do name searches. The best way I find is just go online and see if there's something similar in your area. But you have to do a real valid name search when you finally come up with a name. And as I mentioned in another video on this site, there's many considerations to take into account for your name. The second research you have to get into is, what is your product niche? Now, you have to understand that the product or service that you're about to get into might be something dear to your heart, but is there a need for it? And what type of the niche is it? Can it be segmented even deeper, or can it be really generalized? Location. Boy, when someone said location, location, location is everything, I tell you, that's pretty to the point. You have to do a lot of demographic research. If you're selling a Rolls Royce, you don't want to be in a neighborhood that bikes are scarce because people can't even afford a bicycle. So you have to understand who your demographics are. There's so many ways to do demographic research. Go online. Every major city has demographics available to people for free. You can even buy demographic research, but you have to know what part of town to set up your operation. I had a client that wanted to set up a bakery in an industrial area. Well, a bakery doesn't usually tend to be a destination, and it made no sense for me to agree with her that that would be a good location. I've seen little coffee shops go into a high traffic commercial area, but this wouldn't work. So you have to be very cognizant of location. Competition. You have to research competition. Now the research for competition is real easy. Just type in the name of your product or service and do a Google search. See who's out there. I was recently consulting with a company that wanted to bring his franchise to British Columbia. It's a big step from another province, so we wanted to find out what his competition was like. Well, in his product niche, restoration and mold removal, there are huge companies in British Columbia doing that already. So it's almost like a barrier to entry to come into a big province like this with people that are already entrenched in the business. So it's still in the works. I'm sure he'll get here one day. The thing that differentiates him, and this is another possibility, is that he's got stuff that's different. He uses technology that the people that have been entrenched here for so long aren't up on. So if he was a smart guy, he'd move in real fast and try to scoop up some market share. Researching your pricing. Boy, that's a huge area to talk about. One of the main things you got to think about is, do you want to price your product high because of the quality of it and maybe get less sales, or do you want to price it low and capture a different market segment? That's one of the things you got to research. You got to find out what the competition, there that word again, competition, is doing. If you're bringing in a product for sale, if you have a product idea, you're going to have to do research on suppliers. Do you go with a manufacturer? Do you go with an importer? Do you go with someone out of the country? Do you do it locally? If you decide to go international, like in importing products from China, for instance, you've got to have a broker on the ground in China to sort of be your eyes and ears, so that if a shipment is loaded onto a container, you're going to be guaranteed that it's going to be what is supposed to be there, and that breakage and all that good stuff, and even the quality is good. I recently was working with a client, and we found out that, well, I've done this many times before, but we found that Mexico, the government of Mexico is, it's not the government of Mexico, it's the Canadian government in Mexico, has a trade mission. So what they do is, you apply to them, tell them what your product is, a little bit about your company, and they'll see if they can find you a manufacturer for your product there. And considering foreign trade rules and regulations, the import taxes, they're non-existent. So it's a viable possibility if that's what you're looking for. So research is paramount to all these things working for you. And the last thing that I can think of in this segment is research the amount of money you need. If you think it's easy opening up a business, sit down with a pen and paper and then put down all the costs that are associated with it. From getting a business license to maybe flying to a different part of the country looking at products. That's just the beginning. So there's a lot to be considered in market research. We'll go into that a little later.